What's up, everybody? Episode number 7, Under One Roof with Josh. As always, I'm Josh. Super happy to be here. We are 7 episodes in, and I am pretty pumped about this one. This one here is all about the work-life balance. Now, if you're anything like me, you're struggling to maintain a good work-life balance. And I can tell you, I'm going to got about 5 or 6 different little tips and tricks to kind of help you. If you found things that have helped you, please leave a comment in the comment section, and let's get into it. So, with work-life balance, you have to find basically a balance between 3 different things. You have to find it between you and your family, you and your profession or career, and you and yourself. And the last one is the hardest one for me. I will give 110% across the board to my family. I'll give another 110% to my job. And in reality, that leaves no time for me. And I'm coming to realize I need that time. I need that downtime. I need to be able to, take a step back for a second and just kind of breathe. One of the things I've always done in the past is I wake up early, get a quick workout in, go to work, and then the next thing you know, by 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm exhausted. So when I get home, it makes it even harder to spend time with family. And they're not getting anything from me. So then, I adjusted that and said, okay, well, I'm going to wake up early, go to work. So that way I have the energy when I get home to spend with family. So then I end up spending a ton of time with family, and I don't take any time for myself. And then there's the latter of all of them is, I'll take a day off of work for myself and, still looking at the work cell phone, still answering emails, doing whatever it takes, to keep the family happy. So my work-life balance, a lot of times it varies month by month. Like some days it's really good, other weeks it's really bad. And then, one of the things you got to look at is, what's the value in it? And one thing that, you can watch all these TikToks where these people are talking about, giving 110%, giving it your all and, sacrificing. And to be successful, you have to sacrifice one major part of your life, and that's time. Time you're never going to get back. Time you're never going to get to go back and redo anything. And that's really hard. And you don't notice it when you're in it. When you're in it, you're thinking about, what you can do to get the next project in or get the next report done. And you don't realize those hours, those days that have gone by where you completely forgot about yourself, your family, everything else kind of just takes a backseat, and you can get caught up real quick, and it catches up to you. You'll hit a proverbial brick wall, or the term burnt out. And I can tell you right now, I've been burnt out so many times with work, and just to the point to where it disgusts me. I don't even want to do the job anymore. And then I get a second wind and I'm like, all right, let's go. And I do the exact same thing again. I roll right back into it. I go so deep into it. I don't see the light, and I'm just paddling upwards. I reference a lot of times people are like, if you want success, how bad do you want it? Do you want it as bad as you want to breathe? Absolutely. But if I don't breathe, period, if I don't take a breath, period, I'll never be successful, because I'll always be drowning with work or with home or with my own thoughts, with my own processes. And it really stinks. It's really tough. So we're going to jump into the tips that I got here that have helped me. Tip number 1, set the tone early with your family. If you're getting ready to join a new career or a new company, or, you're taking a leap of something that's going to take up a lot of your time, tell your family early. Set that expectation. I always try to, frame it like linemen. Whenever you get in a job as a lineman, you're going to be on call 24/7. You never know when you're going to leave. Set that expectation early. It's a lot easier to have the phone call, hey, I'm going to miss practice, if that expectation has been set. It's a little harder with your children. If you got children, I've got children. We play baseball. We're always running from here to there, doing whatever it takes. Sometimes you don't get that. And you got to make sure you set that tone early with your family, and so they understand. And the second tip is communication. You got to be top-notch communicator. Like, if you're going to be spending extra time, extra hours, 3 days from now on a project or on a job site or, at work, set that communication up so it's clear, they understand it. One of the big tips that I use is our Google Calendar on our phones. I log everything into that. If I got an after work dinner coming up that I need to be there, it's in that calendar. If I know that I'm going to be out of town, it's in that calendar. That's setting up that communication. And it leads back to the first tip, setting the tone. But communication is the key. And then when you're out of town, make sure opportunities are going to come up where you can communicate with your family, tell them how much you love them and miss them, because you know you do. And you're out of town for a reason. You're providing for your family, and you want to make sure you remember the why, and the why is sitting at home remembering you. So please make sure that there's tons of communication, pictures, FaceTime. There's so much different ways you can communicate nowadays. There's no excuse of why you can't communicate, and if you're not there, the communication definitely makes it feels like you're there. And then, something I touched on with communication is the why. And to me, this is the most important tip that I can give you, is understand the reason why you're doing it. I work as hard as I do for my family. Number one, that's my number one why. But personally, I have a why for myself, and that is I have seen years and years of my family, deep in my family, I'm talking aunts, uncles, where a lot of people always wanted more, but they never could find an avenue or a path or a way. And I have found one, and I am pushing on that button. I'm running that up the flagpole. I'm doing whatever it takes. My why is to prove that, I'm one of the best that's out there. And I'm going to push as hard as I can, outwork every person in this room. This room's empty, so it's pretty easy. But, when you're at a big work meeting or when you're doing anything, I walk into there with understanding my why. And my why is to set the tone that I am the best that's in this room. And you got to remember that when you go out of town, because if you're going out of town for an extended period of time, it can get brutal. No one talks about the, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock phone calls to the family, the 9 o'clock laying in bed watching TV, sports, or whatever. And, at that time, if I was home, my 13-year-old boy would be asking me 20, 30 questions. My wife would be sitting right next to me. I don't have that when I'm out of town. When I'm out of town, it's just me. So if I'm not clear on that, my why, a lot of times a lot of guys crack and then they can't handle the pressure. They're my why, they're my reason of why I'm doing it. So it helps me out to remember that and keep that right in front. I know a lot of guys wear hard hats on job sites. They have pictures in their hard hats. I don't know about you, but I worked down south. Like the only thing that was in my hard hat was water from sweat. But, that was their why. Guys would open up their lunch pails and you'd see their picture of their family there. Or, they would take calls from family throughout the day at appropriate times. And, that keeps us moving towards that why and makes being out of town worth it for sure. And then the fourth one is make time when you're home. Now, this is the toughest one for me. When I'm home, I devote a lot of my time to my family. I will give them every minute, every opportunity they can to spend with me. I'm home often. I do travel probably every other month for a couple weeks throughout the month. I go to Florida, I go up to Pennsylvania. And a lot of those things that, a lot of those things that when I'm home, I try to give them everything I can. And, if that means get out of work at 5 o'clock, get home, grab the glove, we go out pitch in the yard, or that means, I come home, put on an apron and I cook a dinner for the wife for the first time and who knows how long, I'm still giving them that attention and I'm still giving them that time. And that's super important because when you're out of town and, I just talked about it, being alone is not fun and they need you. Your family needs you and you need them. That's why you're a family unit. You all work better together than separate. So you got to make sure that you're giving them that time when you're home. And I'm guilty of it. Like everybody else, I'll be sitting at home. It's 8:30. Boss sends an email. My mind goes right into work mode. My whole attitude changes, and I'm focused on what I got to do to answer that email, or what do I got to do to prepare myself for the next day. And it's tough to turn that off. One of the things I've been doing is Sundays, I take my work phone and I turn it upside down and I put it on Do Not Disturb. Even though I look at that thing 3-4 times that Sunday, with it being upside down, it's not something I want to look at all the time, and it's really helped, I would say disconnect from what we got going on at work, so I don't have to answer emails or flip that switch into work mode. So again, make time when you're there. And then lastly, you got to work together, and that's just the biggest thing. A lot of families don't work together anymore. They want to point fingers like, hey, you were supposed to do this or you were supposed to do that. If you're communicating well, if you know what the why is and you're making the time, then working together just flows naturally. My next podcast is going to be on leadership. I'm really hoping to have a guest, but we're going to take a deep dive into leadership with working together in a family situation, because being a good leader is being a good family man. But we'll talk about that in the next podcast. This one here, you still got to work together with your family. So to recap, you want to set the tone early. You want to communicate really well. You want to make sure you understand the why and they understand the why. That's really important that they understand it. And you want to make more time when you're home. And you want to work together with them. And then, one of the last things I can't stress enough is you got to make time for yourself. Whether I don't know what industry you're in. If you're in the construction industry, summers, it's, what they say, make hay in the sunshine. And that's what we do. We push, we grind. We start at 6 o'clock in the morning. There's sometimes 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. We're done. But you got to make time for yourself somewhere. Your family gets the rest of the time. If you got an hour, if you got a half hour, one of my favorite things to do on a Saturday afternoon, if I get 2-3 hours by myself, is I sit at my fire pit and turn everything off. I got a baseball game maybe playing in the background, or maybe there's just nothing, some light music somewhere, and I'm just staring out in the woods. It's my time. It's time that I need to process everything that's going on. It's time that I need to rebuild my confidence for the following week. And, you can get hit with a bunch of, oh my gosh, what just happened? And, you can process all that when you're sitting by yourself. Some guys, they drive home. When you drive home by yourself, you turn that music off and you're just thinking about your day. Some guys can process in that time frame. I need a little bit more than that, because there's a lot that goes on throughout the week. I have a lot of different things that are going on, a lot of different things I want to do. And sometimes I just need a break to where I need longer than just a 40-minute drive with no sound. And, once you start putting all these tools together, putting them all to work, you'll start seeing a huge difference in your life. And it'll make that, work-life balance a little bit more balanced out. Right now, I'm probably sitting at, I'd say 45% work, 45% family, and 10% myself. I try to adjust that as I go. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Sometimes it really backfires and I fail at myself, and then I get into a I would say an uncomfortable position to where, I feel like I'm not keeping up, I'm not making it, I'm not doing great. And you're going to have those moments. Like, I'm not going to say that this is all going to be, cupcakes, rainbows, sunshine. That's not how this works. Work-life balance is an every week thing. It's an everyday thing. And, there's going to be some days you're not going to be able to give them anything, and there's going to be some days you're going to be able to give them everything. But remember to take time for yourself. And, it's never going to get easier. It's going to get harder. The more successful you become, and that's what a lot of people forget. Success means sacrifice. Like, just get that in your head right now. If you want to be successful, you got to give something up. And unfortunately, the most valuable thing you can give up is your time. And so make sure you're spending that correctly. Make sure you're putting that in the places it needs to be. Otherwise, you're going to be hurting in the long run. You're going to be one of those old guys that was like, man, never got to see my kids grow up. Man, I never was there for when my wife needed me. And don't let that happen to you. It can easily happen to you, but don't let it happen. So that's all I got for this week, guys. We're hitting the 15-minute mark. Next week, I'm pretty pumped. I've been working out the details. Hopefully I can figure out this 2-camera setup so I can start having guests on here. But I'm really excited. This is podcast number 7. This week was a little bit of a struggle to get in here and do it, just because I haven't been, feeling the best, and like we're moving around, and I haven't been motivated to do it. And but we're here, we're getting it done. We're putting in that discipline, putting in that work, and I appreciate anybody that listens to this. Please comment, let me know what you think. And, we're going to get better at it, and we're just going to keep moving forward. And I can't wait to get back at it next week with a new episode. So thanks, guys. Appreciate your time.